And hello again there, YouTube, on this basically Good Friday, Holy Saturday afternoon, day before Easter, whatever you celebrate. Hope you're enjoying it. But coming back at you again, I'm doing a little bit of just a demonstration video here, just running through some proof of concepts with this bar, verifying everything works as it should. And then I think this will be moving on either into another department, or I'll have it up for sale shortly. But what we're looking at here is a Whelen LFL series. As you know, my love for Whelens. I believe it's an SX series LFL Liberty bar. It's got the upgraded LEDs for takedowns in the front. It's got the upgraded LEDs for alley lights on the sides. Just giving it a little bit of a once over. These lenses do need to be I'd say give them a polish, get rid of some of the yellow on them, but for the most part the bar is actually in very good shape. The lines, it's got all its mounting hardware, but the two power cords on this are very long, like I'm gonna say probably 10 to 12 feet in length for both. So this bar was very carefully removed, and it has more than adequate enough cording for whoever actually is going to run this and go from there. But for those asking, since it's clear, it's mostly blue. I don't believe there's any other color, maybe some yellow in the rear, or amber, sorry, amber in the rear. We'll get to that point, but let's go ahead and go through some of these functions, and we'll come in and see what's going on. So we'll start with the most basic functions, looking at the front of the bar. The first thing is we're going to test out these takedown lights, and if I remember correctly, these things are really bright, so I'm hoping I don't get blasted with this, but let's find out. And there we go. So not as bright on camera, obviously, as what I'm seeing out here, but they're pretty effective. There we go. They're working, so that's one down. Next up, let's actually switch these off and go over to the cruise mode, and we should be able to see the edge, or the we call it the end cap bar, light up on almost like a low power mode. Give me a second here. There we go. And there we go. I don't know if the camera shows that. I see some blinking on the camera, but they're not blinking to my eyes. It's probably just the camera playing around. But there's your cruise mode. That should light up all four end segments of the bar. Unfortunately, I'm locked in on a tripod here, so I can't get up and walk around. But that part seems to be working. Let's take a look now and see if we can power up the front strobe assemblies. Now, the interesting thing about these bars, as I talk about it, as I cycle through them, I'm kind of using a cheat sheet here. I remember some of the wiring colors, like for example, mostly green is your front, and if I remember correctly, I think it's white with a red stripe. It's been a little bit since I've worked on one of these, so I'm actually kind of surprised I remember any of this at all. So we're about to find out if this makes a liar out of me or not. I don't know. Hold on, give me a second here. Let me, as I'm making an excuse, let's see. We've got, all right, so we got our flashing end point, or end lamps. That's fine. Let's see what this one, I know green, these are all green. Okay, that one doesn't look like it does much of anything unless it's rear facing. We've got our green with a white stripe. Looks like that's our outer flashers on this bar. And you can obviously go through scan lock and play with patterns and so on and so forth, but I'm not going to do that in this video. Just trying to keep it simple as we truck along. And then lastly, the white with a red stripe, which is your inners. So now what I should be able to do is, if we wire up the white with a red stripe and those greens, I should be able to put the entire front of the bar into function. And there we go. So that's the entire front of the bar minus the alleys, or not the alleys, the takedowns. Let's see if we can actually get the takedowns flashing. I don't have that one mesmerized, or not mesmerized. That's funny. Mesmerized, as I'm getting blasted in the face by LEDs. Memorized. I believe the wig-wag for the takedowns, and I'm cheating too as I'm looking through this here. I want to say that's the white one, just straight white, but I'm not 100% certain on that. I'm actually taking a look now. Let's see, front center, wig-wag, white, blue. All right, so I was somewhat right. There's white, blue here. So I'm going to bring this down, and let's get the takedown lights spinning around. So For those that don't know, I'm also kind of experimenting. I have a tripod here that I've set up with my camera, and it's a new tripod. The last tripod that I was using kind of just fell apart because, you know, just cheaply made devices. So I'm testing this one out. We're going to see if this works or not. If you see this video go up and you hear me talking, you know that's what it is. And there we go. Okay, so we have our flashing takedowns. We have the entire front end of the bar with the end strobes working. We have the outers and the inners, and that's a very good sign. Looks like these are Lin foreheads, so it's the older ones, but they all appear to be working. I don't see any strobe heads out. So on that note, I am now going to flip this around, and we're going to continue this on the other side. So bear with me. All right, we've got the bar flipped around here in the back. I believe this bar does have a traffic advisor installed in it as well, so I think we'll play around with some of those functions too. But like I said before, I believe green was mostly front controls, and I believe for rear, going by memory, and unfortunately my paperwork here is not being real clear on that. I'm not sure even where I even grabbed this from, but I think it's blue. Blue is mostly back when you're looking at the wiring harness. So there's like blue, solid blue, blue with white stripe, blue with black stripe. So we're going to kind of cheat a little bit here because I'm not 100% certain what does what, and my paperwork's not telling me, so why don't we learn together? So first up, powered it up. I've got power to the bar. Remember, and I said this many times, make sure that you fuse your connections. You've learned the hard way, and it gets expensive if you don't. So just an FYI, always make sure you fuse your connections. So let's start off. I'm gonna cheat. I think this is just straight blue, and let's find out what happens. All right, so blue is going to power the rear end flashers, or the rear off corner LEDs, whatever you want to call them. So we know blue is definitely on the right path here for rear. Blue with a white stripe. Let's find out. I've got some ambers in there. So it looks like the outer flashers on this bar are amber. So I did know this is the bar with the amber on it. Okay, I had two of these bars. One of them actually was all blue. This one's got some amber. That's kind of interesting. And then let's do blue with a black stripe. And that's my inner, or I would, if you want to call them, the middle. And then there's a center section in the rear too, which is interesting because I'm not 100% certain what rear is. It's got to be one of these white ones. The question comes down to which one. So I'm going to take a guess and go with white with brown because that sounds familiar. I'm not 100%. Again, let's see if this works. And there we go. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to hook up all the blues and that white with the brown, and I'm just going to give this thing a roll with all the lights going so you can see what's going on and see what the deal is here. Honestly, these Liberty bars are everywhere, and while I'm not a fan of Whelen, these bars actually aren't bad. I've rebuilt a couple of them. This is going to be my second one. This is the first one that I'm getting though that really only requires a cleanup. There's some critters still on the inside there. That's about it. I mean, it's all just about opening it up and giving it a wash. But here we go. Let's run them all in the rear. And there it is. So there's the rear of the bar. The amber on the outsides is kind of interesting. I did think this was an all blue bar, but hey, whatever. The origins of this bar, I believe, come from south of the Mason-Dixon. I want to say my buddy down in Tennessee is the one that actually hooked me up with this, but it's quite interesting. Let me see if I can go through and figure out some of these flash patterns for the traffic advisor, and we'll test to make sure that these work too. Lastly, let's play around with this traffic advisor. For the most part, the traffic advisor on this light appears to be a little bit simpler than some of the other ones. It's mostly two wires. I mean, I guess you can roll through scan lock and change around some of the items with the traffic advisor, but it appears to be, if I want to do traffic advisor going to the right, it's white green, and traffic advisor going to the left is white yellow, which is just one wire, both of them white with a stripe on it. And then if I want both and have it go from inside out, it's combining the two. So let's start with the one going to the left and see if this functions. And there she is. Not bad. Again, works. Doesn't look like there's any LEDs out, which is always a good sign. This bar is actually in good shape, just really needs a cleaning. And now let's reverse that. and throw it to the right. Yeah, there it is. Again, the functions as intended. And now let's blow the whole world up and have it do its fancy mode. And again, I'm not really talking about scan lock here. You can actually play around with scan lock on these functions and kind of have it change, so you can program different things into it. But both at the same time goes from your inside out. So yeah, functionally this bar works 100%. I like to demo the alleys. I know the alley's light. I don't think you're going to be able to see them on camera because we're not directly looking at them, and LEDs are very a directionally oriented light. But I guess we can give it a shot. So let's bring that out. And alleys on this one, I believe, are white solid and yellow solid. So I think white solid, if I remember correctly, is driver's side, and yellow solid, I believe, is passenger side. Again, I could be wrong. I'm trying to go by memory and a really poorly written sheet, but I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. So let's try driver's side first. Give me a second here. And it is, let's see, should be lit. I see it. It really doesn't make a difference. The camera's not picking that up. It's directional. I guess I can get around and take a picture of that. But I think on that note, I think I'm going to call it. My experiment did work. Bar does work as intended. All features or all functions are working. I'll take this out. I see something funny now. I'm looking at the pictures here. But I'm going to take some stuff apart, take the lenses out, give it a cleaning, and go from there. Anybody has any questions about this, you can hit me up. And for those out there, happy Easter. And for those that don't celebrate Easter, happy Passover. For those that celebrate none of that, just make sure you eat lots of food, because why not, right? All right, have a good weekend, guys.